My own daughter is too pathetic to be a bride. If this wedding falls apart, that's on you, Evelyn, not us. My mother hissed that into my ear. 30 minutes later, my hands were still shaking in that same room. As always, before we dive into a story with an ending that's going to feel really satisfying for you, let's do a quick roll call. Type present and the city you're watching from in the comments. For everyone who has liked and subscribed, I pray that Allah makes your problems easier, widens your provision, and keeps your body healthy. Thank you, my friends. Now, listen carefully to my story. My name is Evelyn Carter, and if you saw me that morning, sitting in front of a hotel mirror in a white dress, you'd probably think I was the luckiest girl in the world. Perfect venue, perfect dress, the kind of wedding people post on Instagram with long captions about true love and fairy tales. But my story didn't start with a fairy tale. I grew up in a house where my parents shouted more than they spoke. My dad, Robert, used to be the fun parent. He'd take me for ice cream on school nights, sneak me little presents, tell me I was his brightest star. My mom, Margaret, was the serious one. Bills, homework, chores, schedules, everything strict and controlled. When I was 14, they split. The way my mom told it, my dad was irresponsible, selfish, and addicted to bad decisions. The way my dad told it, well, I didn't really get to hear his side, because after the divorce he slowly disappeared from my daily life. Sometimes he would show up at school with a small gift, but my mom always made sure I knew how inconvenient it was. He doesn't pay child support properly, Evie, she would say, folding her arms. If he really loved you, he'd show it with responsibility, not cheap trinkets. By the time I was 19, my mom had remarried. Her new husband, Victor, was the type of man who measured respect in numbers. Numbers in bank accounts, property values, how expensive your watch was. He shook my hand instead of hugging me when we first met. I like order, he said. Your mother tells me you're a good girl. Keep it that way and we won't have problems. My little sister, Chloe, loved him. She was 10 years younger than me, and he spoiled her with the kind of attention I never really got. I convinced myself it was fine. I was already working part-time and studying business administration. I didn't need a second dad. I just needed peace. I barely saw my real dad by then. Mom always had a reason. He moved again, the way he always does. He didn't send anything for your birthday, so why should we call him? He's just going to disappoint you again, Evelyn. Let it go. So I did. At least I thought I did. Then I met James. I met James Miller at the marketing agency where I worked. He was one of our clients, representing a tech startup that everyone said was going to blow up. He walked into the meeting room wearing a navy suit and an easy smile, like every room was already his. "Hi, I'm James," he said, sticking out his hand. "You must be Evelyn. I saw your proposal. Very impressive." I'd love to say I was cool and confident. In reality, I nearly tripped over my own chair when I stood up. We started working together on campaigns, then grabbing coffee, just to go over numbers, then staying late to finish up presentations. He'd listen to me complain about my stepdad's controlling nature, about my mom's constant stress, about how small our house felt once Victor moved in with his heavy rules and heavier opinions. "You deserve better," James would say, his voice low and gentle. "You deserve to build your own life, not just follow their script." He came from a very different world. Big modern house in the suburbs, parents who ran a chain of high-end furniture stores, Sunday brunches, ski trips. His mom, Linda Miller, loved to talk about aesthetics, about good taste, about people who just don't fit in certain spaces. At first, she seemed to like me. She'd compliment my work ethic, ask about my ideas, pour me wine in their big kitchen. "It's refreshing," she said one night, "to see a young woman with ambition, not just waiting around to marry rich." I laughed awkwardly. "I mean, I'm not against marrying rich." James squeezed my hand under the table, his eyes soft. We dated for almost 2 years. He proposed in the park where we first went jogging together, in front of a little pond where kids fed ducks. He got down on one knee with a ring that sparkled like something out of a movie. "I've never met anyone like you, Evelyn," he said. "Marry me. Let's build our own world." I said yes, obviously. We hugged, we cried, people clapped, and for a moment, I forgot all the tension waiting at home. Telling my mom and Victor was complicated. We were in the living room, with the TV on mute and Victor reading something on his tablet. My mom listened to the story, eyes bright at the part about the ring, her hand covering her smile. "So you're really getting married," she breathed out. "Oh, honey, I knew this day would come." Victor lowered his tablet. "What do his parents do?" he asked. "They own furniture stores," I said. "Several branches. They're expanding." "Good," he said, nodding. "It matters who you tie yourself to." At first, I thought that was his version of a blessing. "So, we'll start planning soon," I said. "I want a simple wedding. Something elegant but not too big." My mom's head snapped around. "Simple," she repeated. "No, no, no, Evelyn. This is your chance. You're not going to have some cheap backyard thing. We are going to do it properly." Victor smirked. "Your fiancé's family has money. And you've worked hard. You deserve to show it." I shifted in my seat. "I don't want to go into debt over one day." My mom waved her hand. "Relax. With James's family, it will be easy. His mother already has connections, right? We can get good deals, sponsors, everything." That was the first little red flag, the way she said sponsors, like my wedding was a business opportunity. Then came the second one. "So," my mom continued, voice suddenly casual, "who's walking you down the aisle?" The room got colder for me. I always imagined my dad," I said quietly. "I mean, he's still my father." Victor's jaw tightened. "That man barely paid for your school shoes," he snapped. "I'm the one who took care of this house, of your mother, of Chloe. You really want that clown to stroll into your big day like some hero?" My mom looked uncomfortable but didn't defend me. She just tilted her head and said, "Maybe it's better if Victor does it, Evie. It would look more respectable." Respectable. I repeated, my throat tight. "Are you ashamed of my dad?" "Don't be dramatic," she said. "I'm being practical. I don't want him showing up late, drunk, or with some random woman." I swallowed hard. My dad wasn't perfect. I knew that. But he loved me at least once. "I'll think about it," I said. Victor stood up, clearly annoyed. "Think fast," he said. "Because if he's in, I'm out. I won't be standing there watching that man pretend he did anything for you." He walked out of the room. The sound of the door closing felt like a verdict. My mom touched my knee gently. "Baby, don't ruin this over nostalgia," she whispered. "We have a real chance to elevate our family. Don't drag it backwards." I wish I had stopped and listened to my gut right then. Instead, I just nodded slowly, already feeling like a part of my life was being erased. I didn't realize that was the first time they tried to delete my own father from my wedding. Meeting our families together for the first time should have been fun. Big dinner, warm atmosphere, people toasting to love. Instead, it felt like an evaluation. The Millers invited us to their house, huge white place with black-framed windows, the kind you see on home design shows. The dining table could seat 12 people, and that night it was full. James's parents, his older brother Eric and his wife, my mom, Victor, and my teenage sister Chloe scrolling on her phone. I sat between James and my mom, trying to smile through the tension. "So, Evelyn," Linda said, placing her perfectly manicured hands on the table, "tell me about your family. Your background." I cleared my throat. "Well, my mom works in administration at a clinic. My stepdad, Victor, does property investments. My dad is not really in the picture," my mom cut in quickly, giving a tight smile. Evelyn is basically our responsibility. Linda's eyebrows lifted just slightly. Ah, she said. So we'll be the stable side then. Everyone chuckled politely, except me. James squeezed my hand under the table. Mom, he said lightly, Evelyn's been taking care of herself for a long time. She's the stable one. Oh, of course, Linda said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. I just mean it's good to know what kind of support systems are in place. Weddings, homes, children, it's a lot. Victor took a sip of his wine. We're not poor, Mrs. Miller, he said. We may not have furniture stores, but we know how to manage money. Evelyn has a good job too. Yes, she's very lucky, Linda replied. Not every girl from a more modest background gets the chance to marry into a family like ours. She must have done something right. My ears burned. I stared down at my plate, trying not to show how much it hurt. Chloe looked up from her phone. Evelyn's always been the good girl, she said. Mom says she's our ticket out of the old neighborhood. Chloe, my mom hissed quietly, but it was too late. The words were in the air. Linda chuckled softly. Well, we're all investing in this future then, aren't we? Later, when dessert came, the conversation shifted to the wedding itself. I have a planner in mind, Linda said. She did our friend's daughter's wedding, stunning. But she's not cheap, so we'll have to be smart about the budget. We're willing to contribute, Victor said immediately. Of course, we expect things to be handled professionally. James smiled. We'll figure it out. I don't want Evelyn stressing about money. Speaking of family, Linda continued, turning to me, how many people from your side are we expecting? We need numbers. I hesitated. I wanted to invite my dad, I said. And maybe a couple of cousins, some old friends from high school. My mom jumped in. We don't need half the old neighborhood there, she snapped. Just close family. Linda nodded approvingly. Yes, intimacy is better. Large crowds can cheapen the atmosphere. Let's keep it curated. So no cousins? I asked, my voice small. Victor shrugged. Let's not pretend you're close to them. And your dad? Well, we can figure out what's best for appearances. What does that mean? I asked. Linda smiled kindly, but there was steel underneath. It simply means this is a very high-profile event on our side, dear, she said. We don't want any unexpected drama. Your mother tells us your father can be unpredictable. James shifted in his chair. Mom. I stared at my plate, feeling like a guest at someone else's celebration. Later that night, when we were alone in James's car, I finally let it out. Did you hear the way they talked about my family? I asked, my voice shaking. James exhaled slowly. They're just being cautious, he said. They worry about reputation. That's how they are. So my dad is just, what? A stain on your reputation. I snapped. He rubbed his temple. Evie, come on. You barely see him. Why are you suddenly so defensive? Because he's still my father, I said. Because he used to carry me on his shoulders and call me his bright star. And then he disappeared, James said quietly. Your own mother told me half the time he doesn't show up when he promises. Do you really want to risk him walking in late or doing something embarrassing? On our wedding day. My throat closed up. I hated that my mom had told him all of that. I hated that part of me believed it. I just wanted him to see me happy once, I whispered. James sighed and brushed a strand of hair from my face. I want you happy every day, he said softly. Let's just keep things simple, okay? No wild cards. I nodded, but it felt less like a choice and more like giving up a part of myself. From that night, my wedding started feeling less like a celebration of my life and more like a performance for everyone else. The planning phase hit like a storm. Suddenly there were group chats with the planner, endless messages about color palettes, seating charts, flower types, menu tastings. At first, I was excited. I created Pinterest boards, saved dress ideas, imagined walking down the aisle with someone, anyone, who genuinely loved me on my arm. But very quickly, I realized I wasn't the director of this show. Linda and my mom became a team. They met without me, then sent me updates instead of asking for my opinion. "We've decided on the ballroom at the Crescent Hotel," my mom texted me one afternoon. "Perfect lighting, great reputation. We already reserved the date." I blinked at my phone. I hadn't even seen the place yet. When I asked her about it later, she said, "You're busy with work, Evie. We're helping you. You should be grateful." Then came the meeting with the planner, Melissa. We all sat around a polished glass table at the hotel cafe. Me, James, my mom, Victor, and Linda. Melissa spread out her laptop, sample menus, photos, contracts, everything. "So," Melissa said sweetly, "because of the peak season, we require a 50% deposit to secure the ballroom and vendors. That includes catering, decor, photography, and so on." She slid a folder toward me. "These are the payment options," she said. "There's also a financing plan. Very flexible." I flipped through the papers, my heart beating faster. "Wait," I frowned. "Why is my name on all of these?" Melissa smiled. "You're the bride, right?" "Yeah, but James and his family." Linda interrupted with a laugh. "Oh, don't worry, dear," she said. "James's business has some ongoing commitments, and our family accounts are all tied up with the stores. It's easier to streamline under one name for the paperwork. The money comes from us anyway." Victor jumped in. "We'll transfer what's needed," he said. "But legally, there needs to be a primary responsible person. You have good credit, Evelyn." "It's standard." My stomach twisted. Good credit suddenly felt like useful porn. James squeezed my knee under the table. "Babe, it's okay," he murmured. "We're in this together. You know I'd never let you drown in debt." Melissa slid a pen toward me. "If you sign here," she said cheerfully, "we can lock in the date." I stared at the line with my name printed under it. Evelyn Carter. "Can I take this home and read it first?" I asked. Silence dropped like a heavy curtain. My mom's smile froze. "Evie, don't be difficult," she said through her teeth. "You've always trusted me with your paperwork. You're not suddenly an expert in contracts." Victor added, "You want the wedding or not? The hotel won't wait forever. This is how it's done." Linda sighed dramatically. "I completely understand being nervous," she said. "But if we delay, we might lose the date. And frankly, we've already put in so much effort." James leaned closer. "Evie," he whispered, "I'll go over every line with you after. I promise. Just sign now so we don't have to start from scratch." My pulse hammered in my ears. I wanted to be brave, to say no, to walk away from the pressure. But 5 pairs of eyes were on me, all expecting the same thing. I ended up signing. My signature looked small and shaky next to my printed name. Later that night, at home, something in me wouldn't let it go. I opened my email and saw a digital copy of the contract. I scrolled through it slowly, line by line, while everyone else slept. There it was. A clause saying that in the event of non-payment, the legal responsibility for the full amount fell on the undersigned client, Ms. Evelyn Carter, including penalty fees, interest, and potential legal action. There were no co-signers. No mention of James or his family. No mention of Victor or my mom. I printed it out, hands trembling slightly, and slipped the pages into a plain folder. Instead of leaving it at home, I took it to my office the next day and hid it in the back of my bottom drawer under old project files. I told myself I was just being organized. But deep down, I knew it was more like hiding a fire extinguisher in a house where everyone kept playing with matches. The closer we got to the wedding, the more I felt like I was losing my grip on my own life. Whenever I tried to have a serious conversation about money or my dad, I got shut down. One evening, I sat at the dining table with my mom and Victor. Invoices and email printouts were spread out around us. Why are there charges for extra decor and an upgraded menu? I asked, tapping the papers. This isn't what we discussed with the planner. And it's all under my name. My mom rolled her eyes. Because we're not going to serve cheap food, she snapped. This is a high-class hotel. People will talk if the wedding feels basic. People who? I demanded. Half of the people coming are from James's side, and they already think I'm from some low background. Why are we trying to impress them with money I don't even have? Victor slammed his hand on the table, making me jump. You are not paying attention, he growled. This is not just about you. This is about all of us. Do you think opportunities like this come twice? You marry into this family, and suddenly doors open. For business, for contacts, for status. So I'm an investment, I said quietly. He didn't deny it. My mom softened her voice. Evie, honey, we'll handle it. We'll move some funds around. Victor has some deals closing soon. Stop looking at every number like it's a threat. It is a threat, I said. If something goes wrong, my name is on everything. Oh my God, you sound just like your father, she snapped. Always expecting disaster. Always terrified of responsibility. I just want to be safe, I whispered. Safe people don't move up in life, Victor said. They stay stuck. I pushed the papers away. And my dad? I asked. Have you even told him about the wedding date? My mom stiffened. He doesn't need to know everything. He's my father, I repeated. He deserves to know his daughter is getting married. Does he deserve it? She shot back. Did he show up to your middle school recital? Did he help when you had that surgery? Did he pay for college? I opened my mouth, then closed it. She was right about a lot of things. But it still felt wrong. I'm going to call him myself, I said. Her eyes flashed. Fine, she said. Call him. Watch him promise to come and then watch him break your heart again. Don't cry to me when that happens. I stood up and went to my room, hands shaking. I tried calling my dad that night. It rang and rang. No answer. I texted him. Hey Dad. It's me. I'm getting married. I'd like you to be there. The message stayed on delivered for hours. No reply. The next day, when I checked again, the message and my text history with him were gone. I frowned and scrolled. Nothing. I went downstairs to ask my mom if she'd seen my phone earlier. She didn't look up from the sink. I borrowed it to answer a call from Melissa, she said. Why? Did you delete anything? I asked. She finally turned around, a dish towel in her hand. Why would I delete your stuff? She said, offended. I don't know, I said slowly. Maybe because you don't want me talking to my dad? She threw the towel down. Evelyn, I am not your enemy, she snapped. If your father cared, he'd have called you himself by now. Has he? I swallowed. No. Exactly, she said. Stop chasing someone who keeps proving he doesn't show up. I went back to my room feeling smaller than ever. I didn't know then that my dad had called me 3 times that week and that someone had blocked his number from my phone while I was in the shower. I just knew that I felt more alone than I'd ever felt in my life. From that point on, I stopped trying to talk about my fears. Every time I brought up money or my dad or my doubts, someone called me dramatic, ungrateful, paranoid, or just stressed. James started using that word a lot too. You're just stressed, he'd say, whenever I cried over a bill. You're making everything bigger than it is. When I suggested downsizing the wedding, he frowned. You're not backing out, are you? He asked, an edge in his voice I hadn't heard before. No, I said quickly. I just don't want to start our marriage drowning in payments. He kissed my forehead. We won't, he said. Trust me. I know what I'm doing. But his eyes slid away from mine when he said it. At night, I'd lie awake in bed, staring at the ceiling, feeling like I was standing on a platform that might collapse any second. The house I lived in didn't feel like my home anymore. My fiancé felt like he was on some secret team with my mother and Victor. My own dad was a ghost on the edge of my life. And the wedding date kept creeping closer, whether I was ready or not. The day of the wedding arrived like a train I couldn't stop. The Crescent Hotel's ballroom was everything they promised. High ceilings, crystal chandeliers, soft lighting that made everything look expensive and dreamy. White flowers everywhere, gold accents, a long aisle that looked like something out of a movie. In the bridal suite, I sat in front of the mirror while the makeup artist finished my lipstick. "You look beautiful," she said, stepping back. I barely recognized myself. The dress was fitted lace with a soft, flowing skirt, the kind of gown I had once thought was too much for me. My hair was in an elegant updo, with little crystals pinned in. Behind me, my mom's reflection appeared in the mirror. "You look like a bride from a magazine," she said, eyes shining. "This is what you deserve, Evie." I forced a smile. "Thanks, Mom." She was already in her dress, navy blue, perfectly tailored, with a matching clutch that definitely wasn't cheap. Victor had sent a message that he was downstairs handling some arrangements with the hotel. "Where's James?" I asked. "In his suite with his groomsmen," she said. "Don't worry about him. Worry about yourself." I glanced at the door. Did my dad ever call?" I asked softly. Maybe he came and didn't know how to reach me. Her face darkened. "Evelyn, why are you still stuck on that man?" she snapped. "It's your wedding day. Stop digging up old wounds." I looked down at my hands. "Maybe I just wanted him to see me happy once," I whispered. She stepped closer, leaning down to my level. "Listen to me," she said, voice low and sharp. "Don't ruin this with your pity party. This is not about your childhood. This is about your future. Focus." There was a knock on the door. One of the hotel coordinators poked her head in. "10 minutes, ladies," she said with a professional smile. "We're just waiting on final confirmation from the groom's side." My heart skipped. Final confirmation. She nodded. "Just standard stuff. Don't worry." My mom smiled at the coordinator and closed the door. "See," she said. "Everything's fine." But everything was not fine. 10 minutes passed. Then 15. The coordinator came back, this time without the smile. "Mrs. Carter," she said, looking a little nervous. "Can I speak to you for a moment?" My mom's brows knitted. "What is it?" They stepped just outside the room. I could still hear bits of their conversation. "The groom's party is not in their suite. We're trying all their numbers. The front desk said they saw some of them leaving earlier. There's also an issue with the payment." My blood ran cold. I stood up, the bottom of my dress swishing around my legs. I opened the door. "What's going on?" I asked. The coordinator's eyes widened. "Oh, Ms. Carter, please, you should stay inside." "What issue with the payment?" I asked, my voice shaking. She glanced at my mom, who gave her a warning look. "There's just a mix-up with the transfer," my mom said quickly. "We're fixing it." "Mix-up?" I repeated. "We paid the deposit weeks ago." The coordinator looked uncomfortable. "The initial deposit was made," she said carefully, "but the remaining balance was due this morning. We attempted to charge the card on file and it was declined. We've also been informed that some of the transfer promises from Mr. Victor Carter's account haven't arrived yet." My mom's face flushed. "I told you we're handling it," she snapped. "Try the card again." The coordinator nodded slowly. "We can try, but there's also the matter of the vendors outside asking about their payments." James. Where was James? Has anyone seen James? I asked, my voice thin. My mom turned to me, and for the first time that day, she couldn't meet my eyes. They probably just stepped outside for some air, she said. Men get cold feet, you know that. The entire groom's party? I asked. At the same time? Her silence was louder than any answer. I tried calling James. Straight to voicemail. I tried calling Linda. No answer. I called Eric. Blocked. My heart pounded so hard I thought I might pass out. Mom, I whispered. What is happening? The coordinator's phone buzzed. She read a message and looked even more uncomfortable. Ms. Carter, she said slowly. The front desk just confirmed that Mr. James Miller and his family checked out of their rooms an hour ago. With all of their luggage. The world tilted. They, what? I whispered. My mom's breathing got shallow. There has to be a mistake, she said. James wouldn't just. Her phone buzzed. She picked it up, stared at the screen, and went pale. I saw Linda's name on the screen before the message flashed and disappeared. My mom's thumb moved faster than I could see. Who is that? I demanded. Was that Linda? It's nothing, my mom said, stuffing the phone in her clutch. Probably just. Let me see, I said. No, she snapped. Evelyn, I said it's nothing. Something in me snapped. I grabbed her wrist, harder than I ever had in my life. Let me see. She yanked back, furious. Don't you dare grab me like that, young lady. The coordinator took a step back, clearly wishing she were anywhere else. At that moment, another hotel staff member came running down the hallway, carrying a stack of papers. Ms. Carter, he called. We need you to sign something. The manager asked for you. Sign something. My head buzzed. The manager is concerned, he continued. Because the payment hasn't been settled, and if the event doesn't proceed, we need to discuss the cancellation fees and possible legal action regarding the unpaid amounts under your contract. My contract. My signature. The hallway spun in slow motion. Guests were starting to arrive downstairs, dressed beautifully, taking photos in the lobby with the flower arch that was supposed to be my entrance. And my groom was gone. His family gone. My own stepfather. Nowhere in sight. I realized with a sickening drop in my stomach that Victor had left the house early to handle arrangements and never come back up to the bridal suite. Chloe, who was supposed to be my bridesmaid, had sent one text an hour ago saying, "On my way," and then gone silent. I turned back to my mom. Did you know? I asked, my voice barely more than a whisper. Did you know they were leaving? Her eyes shimmered with something sharp and desperate. No, she said. Of course not. Don't be ridiculous. Then why is your phone blowing up and you're hiding it from me? I asked. She didn't answer. The manager appeared at the end of the hall, looking serious. Ms. Carter, he called. We do need to resolve this. The vendors are waiting. The costs are significant, and according to our paperwork, you're the primary signer. My knees buckled. The makeup artist rushed forward. Sit down, sit down. I stumbled back into the bridal suite, nearly tripping on my dress, and collapsed into the nearest chair. Tears blurred my vision. My chest felt tight, like I couldn't get enough air. They abandoned me. My groom had left. His whole family had left. My stepfather was gone. My sister was gone. Most of my own guests were still downstairs, laughing and taking pictures, not even knowing there was no wedding anymore. And somehow, on paper, this entire disaster was my responsibility. The manager stepped into the room, holding the papers carefully. Ms. Carter, he said gently, I know this is difficult, but the hotel has to protect itself. The remaining balance is substantial. If it's not settled, we'll have to consider contacting the authorities. Fraud is a serious matter. Fraud. The word sliced through the fog in my brain. I didn't do this, I whispered. I didn't run away. I didn't cancel anything. Why am I the one they're threatening? Because your name is on everything, a cold voice in my head answered. Because you let them talk you into signing. I started shaking. My veil slipped off my hair and fell to the floor. My mom stood there, staring at me, her face crumpling in a way I'd never seen. I didn't know they would actually leave, she whispered. I thought they just needed a push. A push. I choked. What does that even mean? She didn't answer. Far away, somewhere in the hotel, I heard guests laughing. Music testing from the ballroom. Life going on like my world hadn't just collapsed. I looked at the papers in the manager's hands, covered in numbers and legal phrases. All the zeros blurred together. I can't pay this, I said, my voice small. I don't have that kind of money. He sighed. Then we may have no choice but to report this, Ms. Carter, he said. It looks very suspicious from the outside. The groom's side vanishing, the payments failing. The law tends to look for the name on the contract. I stared at him, every part of me numb. My own wedding had turned into a trap I didn't even see being built around me. I wanted to scream. I wanted to rip the dress off, run barefoot down the street, disappear. Instead, I just sat there, shaking, as the future I thought I had crumbled into a pile of unpaid invoices and whispers of the word fraud. That day, in the middle of my white dress and wilted flowers, they erased my place in that family right in front of my eyes and left me to carry the mess alone. And I had no idea that somewhere in the city, my real father was already on his way, carrying information that would change everything. I was left alone in my wedding dress at the Crescent Hotel. James and his entire family checked out and vanished. The payments for the wedding bounced, everything was under my name, and the hotel manager hinted they might report me for fraud, while my own mother stood there hiding messages on her phone. I thought I was about to lose not just my wedding, but also my freedom. I don't remember how long I sat there in the bridal chair after the manager left. My veil was on the floor, my lipstick smeared, my hands shaking so hard I had to tuck them under my thighs to stop them from trembling. My mom hovered by the door, pacing. Okay, she muttered. We'll fix this. I'll talk to Victor. I'll call the Millers. There has to be an explanation. An explanation? I croaked. They checked out. They took their luggage. There's no explanation except they left. She flinched like I'd slapped her. This isn't just about you, Evelyn, she snapped. Do you know how embarrassing this is for me? For our family. People are downstairs. There might be police up here soon, I said, my voice hollow. Because my name is on everything. Her mouth opened and closed. They won't actually. They said fraud, Mom, I cut in. That's not a casual word. I stared at my reflection, ruined makeup, red eyes, a dress that suddenly felt like a costume. I need to get out of this, I whispered, grabbing at the zipper. The makeup artist hurried over. Let me help you. No, my mom snapped. She's not going anywhere. We need to stay calm and cooperate. With what? I said bitterly. Enjoying my non-wedding? Before anyone could answer, there was a knock on the door. Not a light tap, an urgent, heavy knock. The coordinator peeked in, her face tight. Ms. Carter, she said, the manager needs you in the lobby. Right now. I felt my stomach drop. Why? I asked. She glanced at my mother. There are officials here. They want to talk to you about the payment situation. Officials. I repeated. Law enforcement, she clarified in a low voice. They just want to ask some questions. The room spun. My mom grabbed her clutch. I'll come with you, she said quickly. We'll explain everything. I can't go out there like this, I whispered, gesturing to my dress, my ruined face. The coordinator's eyes softened. People downstairs already know something's wrong, she said. It might be better if they see you're cooperating. Somewhere in the back of my mind, a tiny voice whispered, you didn't do anything wrong. Why do you feel like a criminal? But I still stood up on shaky legs. The dress, which had felt like a dream that morning, now felt like a trap. We walked down the hallway together. Me, my mom, the coordinator. My heels clicked against the floor, each step heavier than the last. As we got closer to the lobby, I could hear the low murmur of voices. Whispers. Phones snapping pictures. Guests in suits and dresses craning their necks to see the bride. The coordinator stepped ahead, pushing the glass doors open. I expected to see hotel staff, maybe one or two officers in uniforms I'd only ever noticed in passing. What I did not expect was to see him. Standing at the center of the lobby, hair more gray than I remembered, wearing an old blazer and a look of pure determination, was my father. Dad. I breathed. He turned at the sound of my voice. For a second, his face crumpled with both shock and relief. Evie, he said softly. Behind him were two uniformed officers and a man in a suit holding a folder. The hotel manager stood off to the side, pale and stiff. All eyes in the lobby were on us. My mother stiffened beside me. "What is he doing here?" she hissed. My dad heard her. His jaw tightened. "I'm here," he said loudly, "because my daughter is not going to be the scapegoat for this mess." If this were a movie, I'd like to say I ran into his arms and everything was fixed. But real life doesn't work like that. I stopped a few steps away, my emotions all tangled together. Relief, anger, confusion, shame. The officers watched us carefully, not unkind, but alert. The man in the suit stepped forward. "Ms. Carter?" he asked. "I'm Daniel Reed. I'm working with Mr. Robert Carter as his legal counsel." I blinked. "His lawyer." My dad nodded once. "When Chloe sent me a message that something felt off about this wedding, I started digging," he said, voice tight. "When I called the hotel earlier and heard there were payment problems under your name, and that the groom's family had vanished, I knew exactly what this looked like on paper." My eyes widened. "Chloe messaged you?" I asked. "She hasn't answered me all day." "She used a friend's phone," he said. "Apparently your number doesn't let my calls through anymore." I looked at my mother. She suddenly found the floor very interesting. The hotel manager cleared his throat. "Mr. Reed," he said, "we have every right to demand payment or take legal action. Our contract is with Ms. Carter." "And Ms. Carter," Mr. Reed said calmly, "has every right not to be falsely accused of fraud when there is substantial evidence that she was manipulated into signing documents she did not fully understand, while other parties benefited financially and then disappeared." The word manipulated hung in the air. I felt like I couldn't breathe. One of the officers stepped closer. "We were called by the hotel due to a potential fraud situation," he said. "But Mr. Carter and Mr. Reed contacted us as well. We're here to get statements, not to drag anyone off in a dress." His tone was firm but gentle, and I could have cried just from that. My dad looked at me, his eyes glossy. "Evie," he said, "did you sign everything under your name? The contracts, the financing forms?" I swallowed. "Yes," I said hoarsely. "Everyone told me it was normal. They said they'd handle the money. I kept one copy at my office but everything else." "You kept a copy?" Mr. Reed cut in sharply. "Where?" "In my bottom drawer at work," I said. "I printed it weeks ago. I thought. I don't know. I just felt weird about it." A flicker of approval crossed his face. "That copy might save you," he said. The hotel manager held up his hands. "Look, we're not saying Ms. Carter is a criminal," he said nervously. "But from our perspective, the person who signed the contract is the one responsible. If we don't get paid, we have to protect the hotel. And pretending my daughter is the mastermind behind this while her groom's family walks away with clean hands is not protecting anyone," my dad shot back. "That's just picking the easiest target." People in the lobby were staring openly now. Some of my guests. Some of James's friends who clearly hadn't gotten the memo that the groom had bailed. Heat crawled up my neck. "I don't want to do this in front of everyone," I whispered. One of the officers nodded. Let's move this to a private room, he suggested. Ms. Carter, you can sit down, give your side of things. No one's being arrested today. We're gathering information. No one but my reputation, I muttered. My dad heard me. He turned, and for the first time in years, his eyes softened the way they used to when I was a kid. I'm sorry, Evie, he said. I should have been here sooner. It was too much. The dress, the stares, the humiliation, the fear of losing everything. I burst into tears. My mom stepped forward like she wanted to touch my arm. This is all being blown out of proportion, she insisted. We can fix this internally. We don't need lawyers, we don't need officers, we just need. Dad cut her off. Margaret, he said, his voice suddenly ice cold. You've had years to fix things, internally. Look where that got our daughter. She flinched. Don't you dare talk like you've been the one raising her, she snapped. You disappeared. I was pushed away, he replied, jaw clenched. That's going to come up too, don't worry. The officer stepped between them slightly. Let's all calm down, he said. Ms. Carter, will you come with us to talk? I looked from my mom to my dad to the lawyer and the officers. If I went with them, I'd look guilty to some people. If I didn't, I'd look guilty to everyone. I swallowed hard and nodded. Fine, I whispered. Let's talk. As we walked toward a side meeting room, I caught a glimpse of myself in one of the lobby mirrors. The bride being escorted by officers. People would talk, of course. But for the first time that day, I didn't feel completely alone. My dad was walking beside me. And that had to mean something. The small conference room off the lobby felt like a different planet. Someone had brought in a few chairs and a carafe of water. I sat at the end of the table, gripping a napkin so tightly it tore in my hands. Dad sat on my right. Mr. Reed sat on my left, opening his folder, taking notes. One officer sat across from us, pen ready, while the other stood near the door. My mom hovered near the wall, arms wrapped around herself. The hotel manager perched in a corner, sweating. Okay, the seated officer said calmly. Let's start with basics. Ms. Carter, in your own words, tell us what happened with the wedding planning and the payments. I took a shaky breath. I met my fiancé James through work, I said. We dated for 2 years. When we got engaged, his mother and my parents took over most of the planning. They chose this hotel, the planner, everything. I explained about the meeting with the planner. The signing of the contract without co-signers. The promises that the money comes from us anyway. As I spoke, I realized just how skewed it sounded out loud. I wasn't trying to cheat anyone, I said desperately. I just trusted them. They kept telling me I was being dramatic when I asked about the money. They said I had good credit, that this was normal. Dad's hand closed over mine under the table. His grip was firm, grounding. Did you ever receive any refunds? Mr. Reed asked. Or transfers from the groom's family that could have gone toward these costs? I shook my head. No. Nothing. The hotel manager cleared his throat. We did wire a partial refund to an account this morning, he said reluctantly. For the groom's family. They cancelled certain add-ons for the reception when they checked out. That was processed on their end. I stared at him. You already refunded them? I asked. Before anyone talked to me? He looked miserable. They came down early, said there was a private family emergency, he said. They said they'd settled things with you privately, that you wanted to postpone. We believed them. We refunded what we could on their side, but the main contract is still under your name, so. So they got money back, I said slowly, and left me with the full bill. Silence fell over the room. The officer scribbled notes. My dad swore under his breath. Mr. Reed's face was set in stone. This is textbook, he said. Use one party's clean record to secure a big contract, manipulate them emotionally, disappear, and keep whatever money you can extract before it collapses. If we can prove coordination between Ms. Carter's stepfather and the groom's family, we're not looking at a wedding disaster. We're looking at financial fraud. My mom blanched. Victor would never, she began. Dad cut her off, pulling out a stack of printed papers from his folder. You want to bet? He asked, his voice raw. He slid the pages across the table toward the officer. These are bank statements, he said. They show multiple transfers from my account to Margaret's over the years. For child support. For Evelyn. They also show several recent transfers from Victor to a holding account that, funny enough, matches one of the accounts I traced belonging to Linda Miller. I stared at him, shock freezing me in place. You paid child support? I whispered. He looked at me, hurt flickering in his eyes. Every month, he said. Sometimes late, sometimes small, but I paid. I wasn't perfect, Evie. But I didn't abandon you. My throat tightened. But Mom said that I never paid anything, he said bitterly. That I left you with nothing? I have 12 years of statements that say otherwise. My mom's voice shook. That money went to bills, she said. To this house. To her school. And to at least one joint investment with Victor, Dad cut in. I've been following the trail for weeks, Margaret. You two are not as clever as you think. The officer studied the statements. So you're saying, he summarized, that Ms. Carter wasn't aware she was essentially the legal face of a contract others were benefiting from? Exactly, Mr. Reed said. And she has a copy of the original contract stored at her workplace that will likely show the same thing you have here. Her as sole signer, promises from both families verbal only, no written evidence of their contributions. The standing officer spoke up. At this stage, it looks less like Ms. Carter orchestrated anything, he said slowly, and more like she's been set up. Relief crashed over me so fast I nearly sobbed right there. I can bring the contract first thing Monday, I said quickly. Or tomorrow. Or right now if you drive me. I know exactly where it is. Mr. Reed nodded. We'll go together, he said. The seated officer closed his notebook. Okay, he said. Here's what's going to happen. We're not detaining you, Ms. Carter. Instead, we're going to open a formal investigation into the financial side of this event. That includes the groom's family, your stepfather, and any accounts the hotel has already refunded. The hotel manager swallowed. We'll cooperate, of course, he said quickly. We didn't want to accuse anyone unfairly. We just saw one name on the paperwork and assumed the young bride in the fancy dress was the easy target, Mr. Reed finished. The manager winced. My mom finally stepped closer, her voice small. So, what happens now? She asked. My dad didn't look at her. What happens now, he said quietly, is that I'm taking my daughter out of this hotel. She's not your showpiece anymore. She's not their investment. She's going home with me. I stared at him. Home. I echoed. Where? He actually smiled, just a little. Wherever is safe, he said. We'll figure it out. But it won't be with the people who put you in this mess. For the first time that day, I felt something warm push through the numbness. Hope. It was tiny, fragile, and surrounded by fear, but it was there. The officers stood up. We'll need your statements formally this week, the one by the door said. But for now, Ms. Carter, you're free to go. Don't sign anything else. Don't hand over any documents without talking to your lawyer. I nodded quickly. Trust me, I said hoarsely. I'm done signing things for a while. As we left the room, my mom reached for my arm. Evie, wait, she pleaded. We can talk. We can fix this together. I stopped and looked at her. Did you delete my message to Dad? I asked quietly. The one where I told him I was getting married? She stiffened. You're really asking me that now, she said. Yes, I replied. I am. Her silence was my answer. Something in me cracked, and then hardened. "I'll talk to you," I said, "when you're ready to tell the truth." I walked out of the hotel beside my father, my dress dragging slightly on the floor. People stared from the lobby. Some whispered. Some filmed. But for the first time, I wasn't focused on them. I was focused on the fact that I was leaving that place not as a bride, not as a fraud, not as a puppet, but as someone who might finally start fighting back. The next few days felt like waking up from anesthesia. Pain, confusion, tiny sharp memories coming back in pieces. My dad took me first to a small apartment he'd recently rented on the edge of town. It wasn't fancy, one bedroom, small kitchen, second-hand furniture, but it was quiet and it was his. "You can stay here for now," he said, setting a blanket on the couch. "I'll take the couch, you take the bed. Or we can switch. Whatever you want." I sat at the edge of the couch, still in the sweatpants and oversized t-shirt he'd brought me after we finally got the dress off and left it crumpled in a bag. "I don't want to be a burden," I murmured. He snorted. "You're my daughter," he said. "That's not a burden. That's the one thing I haven't messed up beyond repair yet, and I'd like a chance not to." His honesty disarmed me. "What happened, Dad?" I asked quietly. "Back then. Why did it get so bad between you and Mom?" He sank into the armchair across from me, rubbing his face. "I wasn't a great husband," he said. "I worked odd jobs. I wasn't as stable as Victor. I made stupid choices. But I loved you, Evie. I always did. Every time I tried to get close, there was some new wall. Some new story about how I'd let you down. After a while, I thought you were better off without me." "We weren't," I said, my voice breaking. "I wasn't." He swallowed hard. "Mr. Reed is right," he said. "This whole wedding scam. It smells like more than just bad luck. I've been looking into Victor's investments. There are gaps. Transfers. I think he needed money fast, and he saw your good credit and your engagement as a perfect cover." It made me feel sick to my stomach. "I was just the name on the paper," I whispered. He shook his head. "You're more than that," he said firmly. "But yeah, to people like him, that's all you were." The next morning, we drove to my office. Walking in with my dad felt strange. I was used to walking in with coffee and a smile, not with circles under my eyes and a lawyer on call. My coworker Rachel rushed over the moment she saw me. "Oh my God, Evelyn," she whispered. "I saw some posts about the wedding being cancelled. Are you okay?" "Not really," I said honestly. "But I'm here because I need something from my desk." She nodded and led us to my little corner. My chair, my plant, my cluttered drawers. I knelt down and pulled open the bottom one, shoving aside old files until my fingers brushed the folder I'd hidden weeks ago. I pulled it out and handed it to my dad. He opened it carefully. There it was. The contract. My name. My signature. No co-signer. No other names sharing the responsibility. Mr. Reed met us at the office and flipped through the pages, his eyes scanning. "Here," he said, tapping a section. "Clause about default payment. And here, no written agreement from the Millers or Victor. But there is a note initialed by the planner about verbal confirmation from families regarding shared costs." "Verbal," I repeated. "So nothing that protects me." He closed the folder. "Don't worry," he said. "Verbal agreements combined with bank records, refund trails, messages, that's still evidence. We just have to collect it." "How?" I asked. "They blocked me. They disappeared. James hasn't answered any messages." He smiled faintly. "People who think they're clever love their phones," he said. "They text, they email, they forward receipts. They leave trails. We'll find them." Over the next week, that's exactly what we did. I gave a full statement to the officers, this time sitting in a small interview room in plain clothes, not lace and crystals. My dad sat in the waiting area while I answered questions. Mr. Reed guided me through every answer, reminding me I wasn't the one on trial. We pulled my phone records from the carrier. Guess what they showed? Multiple attempted calls from my dad's number over the past few months. Several blocked after a specific date. As of 3 months ago, Mr. Reed said, your settings changed. Calls from this number no longer came through. Did you change anything then? I shook my head. No, I didn't. He nodded slowly. Then someone did it when they had access, he said. That matters. We also reached out to Melissa, the wedding planner. At first, she was defensive. I just handle decorations and vendors, she said over the phone. I don't get involved in family drama. Family drama is one thing, Mr. Reed said calmly. Potential financial fraud is another. If you knowingly processed refunds or requests that favored one side while knowing the contract was under someone else's name, that could involve you too. Silence. Then a long sigh. Come to my office, she said. I'll show you what I have. When we sat in her small but fancy office, she looked 10 years older than when I first met her. I get brides all the time whose families push them around, she said. But this felt worse. I tried to tell you something was off without getting myself fired from the job. You were always surrounded by them. I never got you alone long enough. She clicked through her emails and pulled up a chain between her and Linda. Linda asking to upgrade certain elements, because the Millers have an image to maintain. Linda hinting that Evelyn doesn't need to see every invoice, we're handling it on our side. Then another chain with Victor. Him insisting that everything stay under Evelyn's name for appearance purposes, and that our contributions will be handled casually. There was even one message that made my hands go cold. I'll make sure she signs whatever you need. She trusts us. Just send the documents to her email and I'll be there when she reviews them. My name appeared in that sentence, but not as a person, just an object they could move around. I didn't like it, Melissa said quietly. But they kept paying small amounts, promising the rest later. I looked the other way. Mr. Reed leaned back. Would you be willing to forward these to the investigators and provide a statement? He asked. She looked at me. I don't want to hurt you, she said. You're not, I replied. You're helping me. She nodded and hit forward. With every new piece of evidence, it became clearer. This wasn't just a runaway groom. It was a coordinated plan to use my name, my record, my trust. And I was done letting them get away with it. The formal confrontation didn't happen overnight. Investigations move slowly. People dodge calls, hire their own lawyers, try to spin stories. But eventually, everything started converging. The hotel wanted a resolution. The vendors wanted their money or a clear direction. The police wanted to finish their reports. Mr. Reed wanted all the main players in one room. And I wanted my name back. So on a grey afternoon a few months later, I found myself walking into a large conference room at the same hotel that had almost destroyed me. I wasn't in a white dress this time. I wore a plain blouse, dark jeans, and a blazer my dad had bought me from a discount rack. Ready? He asked softly, walking beside me. No, I said. But I'm going anyway. He smiled. That's my girl. Inside the room were several familiar faces. The hotel manager and 2 representatives. One of the officers I'd spoken to before. Mr. Reed, already setting up his notes at the table. Melissa, sitting nervously on one side, clutching a folder. And across from them, looking smaller than I'd ever seen them. James. Linda. Eric. My mother. Victor. Chloe, sitting beside my mom, eyes red and nervous. The chatter died as soon as I walked in. For a second, no one moved. Then Linda spoke, her voice soft and poisonous. Evelyn, she said, you look different. I heard you've been very busy telling stories. Funny, I replied calmly. I heard you've been very busy moving money. Her lips tightened. James looked at me, his expression stuck somewhere between guilt and irritation. We didn't mean for things to go that far, he said. You're making this bigger than it was. My laugh came out harsher than I intended. Oh, I'm sorry, I said. Did I overreact to being abandoned at the altar and almost charged with fraud? Victor rolled his eyes. This whole circus is unnecessary, he said. We had a misunderstanding. The economy shifted, some transfers got delayed. Mr. Reed raised a hand. Let's begin, he said. We're not here for speeches. We're here to go through the findings. The officer nodded. Everyone, have a seat, he said. We'll go through the information one by one. We all sat. My heart hammered in my chest, but my hands stayed relatively steady. For once, I wanted them to see me like this. Not crying. Not begging. Not apologizing for making them uncomfortable. Calm. Focused. Done being their victim. The officer started. After reviewing documents, transaction history, and communication between the parties, he said, we've identified several key points. He listed them, one by one. The contract fully under my name, with verbal promises from both families but no written proof of their responsibility. The timing of refunds processed to accounts connected to the Millers just hours before they left the hotel. The transfers between Victor's accounts and a holding account tied to Linda's side. The changes to my phone settings around the same time my dad's calls stopped going through. The emails from Linda and Victor to Melissa discussing how to keep everything under my name while assuring her that the family would take care of the rest. With every sentence, I watched their faces. Linda's confident mask cracked first. Her fingers twisted her expensive bracelet. Her eyes darted everywhere but at me. Victor's jaw clenched. My mom stared at the table, eyes shiny. James looked like he wanted to be anywhere else. So from where we stand, the officer concluded, this looks less like a misunderstanding and more like a pattern. Using Ms. Carter's clean financial record to carry the risk, while money flowed between other accounts and certain parties walked away when it was time to pay. Mr. Reed leaned forward. At minimum, he said, we're dealing with negligent misrepresentation. At worst, we're looking at intentional fraud. Now hold on, Victor snapped. You can't prove intent. We were going to pay. Things just fell apart. Then why didn't you come back? I asked quietly. Why did you vanish that morning? Why did you leave me to face the hotel manager alone? He looked at me with the same cold calculation I'd seen so many times. Because you were the bride, he said. It was your wedding. It made sense for you to handle it. You mean it made sense for me to take the fall? I replied. Linda suddenly spoke up. We're willing to pay a portion of the outstanding balance, she said quickly. As a gesture of goodwill. We didn't want things to end like this. A portion. I echoed. You got refunds already. You got out clean. I almost got charges. And you want credit for being generous. James finally snapped. Oh, come on, Evelyn, he said, leaning forward. You're acting like some martyr. You knew there were costs. You knew we were under pressure. You kept pushing for things too. I kept asking to downsize. I cut in. Every time I brought up the cost, you told me I was being dramatic. Or just stressed. You made me feel crazy for worrying about money with my name on all the papers. That's not gaslighting, that's exactly gaslighting, I said louder. You and my parents spent months making me doubt my own instincts. You used my fear of disappointing people so I'd shut up and sign whatever you put in front of me. Silence fell again. My dad spoke up, his voice steady. She almost got a criminal record, he said. You don't get to minimize that. Linda swallowed. We never wanted her to face charges, she murmured. Mr. Reed raised an eyebrow. Then perhaps, he said dryly, you shouldn't have built your entire plan on her signature. The hotel manager cleared his throat. From the hotel's perspective, he said, We simply want the outstanding balance resolved and our reputation intact. We are willing to adjust the record to state that Ms. Carter was not the party responsible for the default, if the investigation concludes what it appears to. The investigation is ongoing, the officer said. But the direction is clear. He turned to Linda and Victor. You two will be facing a separate discussion regarding potential charges, he said. We're not deciding everything in this room. But your behavior is on record. Victor's bravado finally slipped. You can't do this, he muttered. We have deals. We have connections. Connections don't matter much when the evidence is stacked this high, Mr. Reed replied calmly. My mom finally spoke, her voice small and shaky. I never wanted this for her, she whispered. I just wanted her to have a better life, a better husband, a better status. I looked at her, my chest tight. You wanted a better story to tell your neighbors, I said. You didn't care how much it cost me. She flinched. That's not fair, she protested. I sacrificed so much. For yourself, I said. You sacrificed me for yourself. For your comfort. For Victor's investments. You were so desperate not to feel like the poor one that you used your own daughter as a shield. Tears welled in her eyes. I thought you were stronger, she said in a broken voice. I thought you could handle it. I was never supposed to have to handle being set up for fraud, I replied. Chloe suddenly burst into tears. Stop, she cried. Just stop. This is horrible. My anger softened a little when I looked at her. She was just a teenager who had grown up in the same house, with the same twisted definitions of love and loyalty. I saw your message to Dad, I said gently. Thank you. She nodded, wiping her eyes furiously. I knew it was wrong, she said. I saw Mom changing your phone settings one night. She said Dad was toxic, that you didn't need him. But when I saw how scared you looked the week before the wedding, I couldn't keep quiet. My mom covered her face with her hands. The officer spoke again, his tone more formal. Legally, he said, this is going to take time. There will be more interviews. Possibly charges. Settlements. But one thing we can clear up today is this. Ms. Evelyn Carter will not be recorded by this hotel or by us as the primary suspect in any fraud. The responsibility is shared, and perhaps more heavily on the parties who orchestrated the financial aspects and then ran. It felt like a weight sliding off my chest. Not all of it, there was still a long way to go, but enough to let me breathe. The hotel manager nodded quickly. We'll update our internal notes, he said. If anyone asks, the matter is under broader investigation. Ms. Carter is not to be blamed publicly. Good, Mr. Reed said. Because if one more person hints that she tried to scam anyone, we'll be adding defamation to the list. I almost smiled at that. Almost. The officer stood up. I think we're done here for today, he said. We'll be in touch. As people started to stand, I looked around the room one last time. At James, who couldn't meet my eyes. At Linda, clutching her bag like it could still protect her. At Victor, furious and pale. At my mom, crumbling under the weight of her choices. At Chloe, caught between worlds. Then I looked at my dad, who simply reached out his hand to me. Ready to go? He asked. Yes, I said. I am. We walked out together. No bouquet. No rice. No wedding photos. Just the sound of my own footsteps and the knowledge that I didn't belong to their plans anymore. Life after that conference room wasn't magically perfect. I still had bills. I had to work extra hours to pay off the smaller vendors who couldn't wait for all the legal stuff to drag on. Some nights I lay awake staring at the ceiling in my dad's apartment, wondering if I'd ever trust anyone again. But slowly, things started to shift. The hotel quietly reached a settlement where I only had to pay a fraction of the original amount. And even that was partially covered after evidence of the Miller's refund and Victor's transfers came to light. James's reputation took a hit when some of the details leaked, nothing official, but in their polished social circle, Whispers were enough. One of his big clients pulled out of a deal. His perfect image on social media cracked. Linda became a lot less visible online. Her constant bragging about aesthetic lives faded under the weight of private legal meetings. Victor lost 2 major investments when his name came up in the investigation. People he'd once boasted to suddenly grew very quiet around him. My mom eventually filed for separation from him. It took months. I heard about it from Chloe first, who visited me on weekends. She's angry, Chloe said. She says he dragged her name into his mess and she only wanted stability. But I heard her crying the other night, saying your name over and over. I didn't know how to feel about that. Part of me wanted to run back into her arms like I used to as a kid. Another part of me remembered her hand over my phone, her silence at the meeting, her obsession with status over my safety. Healing with her would be its own long story. I wasn't ready yet. But I was open to the idea that maybe someday we could talk as 2 adults and not as a frightened daughter desperate for approval. In the meantime, my relationship with my dad quietly strengthened. We started having coffee together in the mornings. He'd ask about my work, my colleagues, my projects. You always were the smartest one in the room, he'd say. They just didn't know what to do with that. He showed up. Not perfectly. Not like a movie dad with endless money and time. But consistently. He helped me move into a small studio closer to my job. He insisted on paying half the first few months' rent. Consider it a late contribution to your adulthood fund, he joked. I laughed more and cried less as time went on. At work, my boss gave me time off after the disaster, then pulled me aside when I came back. Everyone heard some version of what happened, he said gently. If anyone makes you feel uncomfortable about it, you come to me. You're one of the best people on this team, Evelyn. Don't let this define you. That sentence stuck with me. Don't let this define you. I started going to therapy too, talking about why I always felt like I had to be the responsible one, the fixer, the shield. Why I ignored red flags just to keep the peace. My therapist said something that hit me hard. You were taught that love means sacrificing yourself so other people are comfortable, she said. What would it look like if love meant protecting yourself too? I didn't have an answer at first. But I started learning. I set boundaries. I stopped picking up every call from my mom at midnight when she wanted to unload her guilt and then hang up before asking how I was. I told James, when he finally texted some half-hearted apology, that I didn't want contact. His message read, "We didn't mean for it to hurt you this much. Can't we meet and talk like adults?" I stared at it for a long time. Then I replied, "Adults don't leave someone at an altar with a pile of debt and call it a misunderstanding." Then I blocked his number. It felt good. Like closing a door that had been swinging open and shut in the wind for too long. One evening, months after everything, my dad and I sat on a park bench watching kids play on the swings. "Do you ever think about getting married again?" he asked quietly. I chuckled. "Not right now," I said. "I can barely commit to a houseplant." He smiled. "Fair," he said. "Just don't let what happened convince you you're unlovable." "I know I'm not unlovable," I said. "I just know I'm not disposable anymore, either." He nodded, pride shining in his eyes. "That's my bright star," he murmured. The same words he used when I was little. My chest warmed. I leaned my head on his shoulder, something I hadn't done in years. "I thought my wedding day was the end of my story," I said softly. "Like, I failed at the thing everyone treats like a finish line." "It was the end of a chapter," he replied. "Not the book." I watched the sky slowly turn pink. He was right. I didn't have a husband. I didn't have a perfect photo album. I didn't have the big fancy life my mom dreamed of. But I had my freedom. I had my name cleared. I had my own bank account that no one else touched. I had a father I'd almost lost forever, sitting beside me. And most importantly, I had finally learned that my value wasn't measured by someone else showing up in a tuxedo. It was measured by the way I finally showed up for myself. Now I know I was never the pathetic bride they tried to paint me as. I was just a woman raised to think that her worth came from other people's approval, until the day they abandoned me and I realized the only approval I really needed was my own. From everything I went through, I learned that the people who truly love you will protect you, not use you as a shield for their own risks. If the only way a relationship works is by you signing away your safety, financially, emotionally, or legally, that's not love, that's exploitation. If you're in a situation like mine used to be, please remember, you are allowed to say no, ask questions, and walk away before they turn you into the scapegoat for their bad choices. If you've ever gone through something similar or you want to share your own story, write it in the comments below. Don't forget to share this story with your friends, like the video, and subscribe so you don't miss the next stories.